Yeah.
All right, so let's do it. So it's 3:06 now. Do you want to put a timer on to stop us to give
Now
us
I
a
just
mark?
tend to watch the clock. Like it's on the clock, so I just tend to watch the clock, and I'll let us know when we're getting close.
Okay. All right.
Um, I feel
All
like
right.
in this one we can kind of be real conversational around it,
Yeah.
just because like what are your initial thoughts on the judiciary, and not
So,
just the document, but the purpose and how they're doing their job right now.
well, I have my initial thoughts about the judiciary is this. The Supreme Court in particular was not designed for the populace. The Supreme Court was designed to maintain order and make sure that the rules that were agreed upon they don't get crossed. So very often in the broader culture, people look to the Supreme Court for quote unquote justice, and that's not what it was designed for. So you get lucky, and their law and order meets out a little bit of justice for you, but they're not really designed to do that. They're designed to keep order, keep everybody in line.
And and to you, and what does that mean to you, and what you know about America as it is? Like, what do you think keeping people in line means?
It means protecting property at all cost. Second after property, it means protecting whomever is the elite of the class of the culture and society. It means protecting their interests. And maybe, if the list is 10 things, protecting the citizenry of the populace.
And just the ability for the populace to engage with one another peacefully and possibly like not consistently have conflict all the time. Maybe.
I don't even think that's true because, the way that we've laid this out right now, the legislature, either the federal legislature or the state legislature, writes laws, and mostly there's an opportunity to make the laws just vague enough to encapsulate everyone, just vague enough. So the Supreme Court's role is supposed to be an interpretation of the Constitution, but that is continually getting fudged because you've got this outrageous idea, which is constitutionalists who are suggesting that the people in 1776 or 1775, 1774, the culture of the world at that moment is still applicable to the world we live in today. So they're using a 1776 yardstick to measure the metric world of 2025, which in in many points, it's utterly ridiculous. So
Yeah.
very often in these conversations about the court broadly and the Supreme Court, so many things that didn't exist during the time of its inception are now in existence, and the court doesn't know how to rule. So they defer to order. So what will keep the most peace and profit the most people will do that. Uh, one of the things that we're battling broadly in the culture is social media. And in order to protect the interest of business, it's called Section 231 of the law. The social media companies are not liable for what is placed on their platforms. So
Mhm.
they're completely absolved. And basically the read is, well, the technology is so new, we really can't, that would stifle their growth if they were held accountable for every single thing that happened,
Right.
which is ridiculous. So the court is backing up and the legislature is enforcing this idea. Yeah, just let them run wild for a little bit, and we'll see how it goes. That's not in the best interest of the citizenry. Zero at all. So
What do you think? What do you think would be in the best interest that
what
they
we
could
should
rule?
have what we should have is the legislature should say, whatever you're doing, it shouldn't do any harm. And if it does do harm, these will be the penalties. And then the court should then enforce that legislative body and go, yeah, you did that thing and it hurt like six people. So you need to fix that. You need to fix the thing, and you need to make those people as whole as you can. Because you shouldn't be given leeway to hurt people. And broadly, in the culture of capitalism, we're being asked to give deference to quote unquote innovation, and let it grow. Let's see where it's gonna go. It's gonna be great. And even if it's not gonna be great, it'll be okay. It'll eventually be great. And that's ridiculous. The courts most recently are taking civil rights more serious. But if you look at something as simple as gay marriage, it took a long time for the courts to recognize the humanity of a subsection of the population.
Oh yeah, yeah, it definitely took a long time, um, which is a good thing that we're here, and
It's
those
great
ways
that
of
we're here.
thinking can be incorporated into the judiciary's thought process. I think that that in itself too is something to consider, and the fact that that's really only been this most recent century. I mean,
Right,
20th century to today. I mean, where the court had that kind of power to then determine the outcomes of the majority of people, not just here in America, but just overall. Like,
right,
because
and yeah,
it impacts the rest of the global economy and the rest of the global world. Whether it's you're coming here as a tourist or you're coming here as a college student, or you're coming here as a person who just wants a better life or even to escape persecution in your own country.
right.
Like, it's no longer a place that is even looked at um, as safe haven, um, and the dream, you know, landscape. You know what I mean? Like that whole American dream thing. Which again, I'm still very much diehard American in that I believe that that dream is just being reformulated as we currently live. Like I do feel like there is a dream moving on to even build off Dr. King's like thoughts and words of there being a society here in this country that will at some point acknowledge the hurt that it's caused on both on many fronts, but mainly particularly the original injustices that we know have built this nation. Um, and we just come to some conclusion that that is at least understood and respected. Like I still feel like there are moments in history that have shown us that those times of respect have grown. Even as close back as the Supreme Court decision to um, in Brown versus Board of Education to desegregate, which again I know some people are on both sides of it, and I see points on both sides of it. Um,
But so I would offer there's not it's not a both sides issue. Segregation is the segregation is the outgrowth of slavery. We should name the original sin slavery. And segregation, again, created a society that didn't allow all of us to have the best opportunity. And I think when we talk about what is referred to as the American dream, I'm become more cynical. What I would say is in the United States of America, there's so many more opportunities to succeed than any other place in the world thus far. Uh, but those opportunities are not available for everyone, and we need to be careful uh, at spreading the mythology that the opportunity is available for everyone. The opportunities here, it's not available for everyone.
oh, so you feel like there's been mixed messaging around like, oh, it's free for everybody, but it's not really kind of thing.
It's not mixed messaging. It is a deployed idea of patriarchy, misogyny, um, racism, and so on.
So do you think that if people just like marketed, like if America just marketed more like, hey, this is what you can do if you're a citizen here, but this is what you can
No, I mean we're
like, but
living on
you can't do that
this is
if you're not a
capitalism.
citizen.
This is we live in a capitalist society. So really, what's important is can you sell an idea or a service? Can you sell a product or a service and benefit from doing so? So the first question is, do you have a good idea? The second question is there a way for you to get your idea to the market?
Yeah, which
That's
then speaks
that's
to resources, right? Then you got to have resources. You got to
and
have,
that's and that's that's where the opportunity thing comes in. So
yeah,
many people, I'll take the simplest possible idea, something like a frisbee. I'm sure before the frisbee was patented, uh, maybe 100 different people had some similar idea to the frisbee, and they either didn't have the resources or didn't have the kind of relationship to build a product and bring it to the marketplace. The judiciary protects you when you get close to the finish line. So the patent law in particular. So you go and you patent your product, your frisbee, and now you get the monopoly on benefiting from the frisbee. That's mostly okay, mostly, but you have to take into if you look at the broader picture of that, there were 15 other people who couldn't figure out how to jump through those other hoops, and you beat them. So by the luck of circumstance, you get protected.
well, yeah, I'm just sitting here laughing because every time you said the word frisbee, it made me think of this dude that went to Penn State. His name,
Okay.
his name was Mr. Man Frisbee. So I'm saying like,
So I think when you look at how this thing is constructed, it's exploitative,
yeah.
uh, and they don't tell you that. So what they tell you is work hard, be smart, and you will succeed. But we've seen so many times we've seen the broader court, the Supreme Court, be manipulated to to protect um, to protect the elites. I mean, that's the nicest word we can say, to protect the elites. So they've done, many of the cases in the early 70s and 80s of chemical poisoning. Uh, the fact that the harm that was done, the fact that the harm that was done to so many classes of people required them to have so many resources to get any kind of recompense. That seems out of line. You had a factory, you dumped water, the water was bad water, and the people in the town outside of the factory drank the bad water and they got sick. The fact that you have to fight for acknowledgement and then fight for recompense, this there's a kink in the system that's the process. That you should be able to much more easily organize. You should be able to protect your citizenry much more easily than we are now.
But
So
why?
yes,
But why do you feel like knowing American history? Why do you ever feel like citizenry, especially for us, like why do you feel like it's ever been protected?
it's not it has never been protected. What I the word I'm looking for is uh, some version of the word coddled. So really, what we have in this American experience is an opportunity to give a salve to the populace to make them feel they have agency when they may not really have any at all. I mean, the fact that you could bring your case to court and then the judge just throw it out, just summarily throw it out. So if
Yeah.
you don't have the right, if you don't have a good attorney, if you get a bad judge, uh, They can just throw it out, regardless of sometimes it's literally regardless of the merits of the case, it could just get thrown out.
Hmm.
Uh, so that wasn't this. That's not a design to protect the citizenry. It's a valve. I mean, the judiciary in particular is a valve for the citizenry to give them an opportunity to cry out and scream and shake their fist. And in doing so, you don't have the French Revolution here every 5 years.
Yeah, so with that said, let's dig right into right here. If you look at section 1, article 3, right? Constitution. The judicial power of the United States shall be vested in the Supreme Court and in such inferior courts as the Congress may from time to time ordain and establish. The judges, both of the Supreme and inferior courts, shall hold their offices during good behavior and shall at stated times receive for their services a compensation which shall not be diminished during their commence their continuance in office. So what do you think about that? That for one, it does say it has no term limit, and two, compensation cannot go down.
Competition cannot go down. I think the other thing that's a fascinating uh, fact of this experience and this American experiment is there are no qualifications needed to be on the Supreme Court.
No, none. Notice how it didn't give an age. It didn't like at least not yet. And there's only two other sections. Like this is the shortest section of I
Right.
think the whole document. It's only three sections for the judges.
So I think that what you have to recognize is they decided that they would have an opportunity to place the structure of this of the structure of the context of the Article 3, but also of their governance, was they decided to have an opportunity to put whomever they wanted in place to govern and protect the interests they wanted protected.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. Well, again, I think that that's what we got to look at when it comes to any government, right? Like, is there ever been a government where it hasn't been led by people who make decisions for themselves at the top that then, if you're in a great society, those decisions then you are hope manifest themselves in good ways that they're taking care of the people, right? Which is why this current time period is a little weird, I think, for most humanly moral and thoughtful people in that, you're talking about, a time period where we're looking at disenfranchising those who struggle most in the society that we built as a nation and as a global economy and disenfranchising them even more. Um, so it is important that we understand what the judiciary has an effect, and how the judiciary not only comes into play around the actual laws that they decide on, but also, again, what cases, like you said, are heard at the highest level, um, as well as what the scheduling of that is too, right? You got to keep that in mind too, of like when things happen is just as important as why,
Absolutely, absolutely.
you know? So I want to go back into the second section real quick, and because it's a real interesting thing here that I think people today need to just really dig into. In that section 2, the judicial power shall extend to all cases in law and equity. There's that word in
Mm,
the Constitution arising under this Constitution, the laws of the United States and treaties made or which shall be made under their authority to all cases affecting ambassadors of the public, ministers, and consuls to all cases of admiralty and maritime jurisdiction, which again, if people don't know, maritime jurisdiction is, on the sea. And mind
that's
you, when
right.
the document was first um, created, that's the only kind of transportation they really had.
That's right.
So, so it's all, put it in context. But again, basically it just lays out in that first paragraph that pretty much anything that comes up goes through this spot.
That's right. But I think that it's a clever device to create to create a conduit for adjudication. That I
And
mean
it's
that's what it is.
and isn't
It's a
that also just for people too who may not really truly understand what being an American, means? Like when you look at the system of itself, the system of democracy, it is that creation of that element that has even allowed for the consistent growth of even this nation, which
absolutely. I mean
like you don't find other governments that had that in place prior to America, where there was a third branch that could decide things and really truly
in all
make it.
intents and purposes a referee. And I think
Yeah, pretty much.
it is it is a good component of government. I just wonder if we need to be looking at it with more scrutiny in terms of whom it serves and how, uh, because the idea is the rules that are in the Constitution are the rules to be followed, and those rules are the rules to be enforced by the Supreme Court. So you have to again go to the root and think about how equitable are the rules in the Constitution.
Well, yeah, yeah, yeah. But again, notice that word was in there, and and that's what I think people don't even get is like that word itself, like it's right there, and they
Hmm.
can try to abolish it all they want.
Yeah,
It's embedded. It's embedded in the document
yeah,
that you swore an oath to uphold.
that you
But
swore an oath to
I
uphold.
bet you, I can promise you, a lot of that base and a lot of those people will not even know that that word was in there like that from the beginning.
Yeah,
You know. And so that's the sad part too of what we deal with. We deal with that, growing ignorance of thinking instead of actually doing the actual research and
yeah.
really doing the project or like really writing the paper instead of asking AI to do it for you. You know what I mean?
But I think the question then becomes what what of this nation are we going to just take a slow slide into fascism, or are enough are enough people going to come to the conclusion um, that we need to uphold this document and the rules that it stands
Yeah,
for?
I'm not getting on that slow ride train with you. I'm not like
Okay,
I'm holding out that we are going to figure it out.
let's all hold out
Like
and
like
protect
I don't
ourselves,
mind the train coming through.
right?
I don't mind it coming through, but I'm gonna keep pushing for change and for the American identity that again only we would have, right?
Right.
And that we've lived this experience. And so if it's not going to be us leading us through it, then that's where things can go wrong. Like how you put a South African dude in charge of our government efficiency is a little like sideways to me. Like I just
Well, but I think
don't
that
understand it.
the broader idea is what kind of government do they want? And it would it would it would appear to me that was the interest of this administration is to run wild in the China shop. So they tied up all the guards and put them in the back room, and they just went wild. So uh, the idea of Doge is to look for a way to reduce the size of government, not the efficiency of it, but the size of government. So much of what government does is in fact soft power, and it's soft power around the world. Um, and it's too squishy for most Americans. So they found that as a weak spot, and they said, you know what? Let's go in and just wreak havoc on the government that people don't understand how it works anyway. So they won't miss it, but they will. Um, and I think whether he was South African or not, I don't know if that is the root cause of the problem. I think the broader thing is to have someone with the level of resources, at the scale of resources, deciding what to take away from other people, I think that's something that we should examine more carefully.
Oh, no doubt. It all needs to be re-examined, and that's why I'm gonna bring us back to the document real quick because I thought that this next part um, really is something that people should be mindful of too. Where these two paragraphs I think are super important in understanding the Supreme Court and its role that it was intended to have, right? So that we can also compare it to what the current day role is being played, as well as how the current day makeup is askew because there should have been an Obama appointee on this court, but there
That's
wasn't.
right. That's right.
So it's like we can't even go back to the what ifs and the Monday morning quarterbacks on that one because we let it happen, you know? So in all cases, affecting ambassadors, other public ministers, and mind you, this like they were first speaking to the ambassadors of the nation going out
Yeah,
and dealing with things. Um, so that's why they're most important here to start with, like why the court is needed and important. And those in such a state shall be party. The Supreme Court shall have original jurisdiction, meaning again that like that's the first court it has to go to, or they can choose not to take it, right? In
right.
all the other cases before mentioned, the Supreme Court shall have appellate jurisdiction. And notice again, it says all, right? Both
Yeah,
as to the law and fact, with such exceptions and under such regulations as the Congress shall make. But notice again how they tie it into the Congress has the power over the court to actually, make more courts do, what it needs to do. And it directly ties the two branches as um, pretty much balancing beams to the third branch of the executive branch, right?
that's right.
Because again, you don't want the power vested in one person, right?
Right.
So in this last paragraph, the trial of all crimes except in cases of impeachment. Notice again how speaking to who is this made for, right? Everybody except for the president
Right.
shall be by jury, and such trial shall be held in the state where the said crimes shall have been committed. But when not committed within any state, the trial shall be at such place or places as the Congress may by law have directed, right? So, you have that kind of thing going on where it's like, what exactly is going on from the standpoint of how do we navigate the court and in its current state? Because you're talking mindful, six partisan Republican,
That's right.
three partisan Democrats, and no. I remember there was mention of expanding the court.
Right. So the
Um,
Democrats wanted to expand the court. But I would talk about the court in the context of the court seems to be have swung incredibly right, and they want to proffer as much power to the executive as possible because they believe in that sort of mandate. I think what we have to do as Americans is be much more attentive to the judiciary where you live. So your local judges, the state judges, I think you need to pay more attention to them because they're the ones who make the ascension to eventually become on the court. So if you're concerned about the direction this country is going, the upcoming elections in November 2025 and 2026, look at the ballot more carefully and investigate whom is running for bankruptcy court judge, administrative judge, um, civil court judge. You need to look at those judges and their records and be much more mindful about how they're ruling, what cases are coming up, and what cases, what rulings do you think will affect you? Um, I think we need to carve out some more time in your very busy schedule to pay attention to those things. Because at this point, the train is going pretty fast, but I think we have an opportunity, if we are really vigilant, to pull one or two of those cars off the train before it heads out. So In your local elections, the local judges, the state judges, are judges that often are elected. So you should interrogate what they stand for and how that reflects what you believe and what your community thinks is important.
Yeah. And so what do you think right now the most important case, in your opinion, that you're paying attention to that the Supreme Court is taking on? Or do you even have a
I
opinion?
think the important case right now is the quote unquote big beautiful bill. If that passes, will the courts side with the administration in a number of the statutes in the bill? One of the statutes in the bill protects the AI industry for 10 years and precludes any state from drafting legislation that would curtail AI for 10 years.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, damage
the
could be forever done with the deep
so
fakes and the AI
it's
generated
all, all,
content.
all of that. The
Right.
other case is all these the immigration cases are important. So I'm looking at Kilmar Abrego's case. Let's see how the the court adjudicates the criminal case he has, and then once that's been adjudicated, what happens with the Supreme Court case for due process for being quote unquote deported. Um, and then this incredible overreach, the overreach by the executive branch. It seems like the court is pushing back. I don't think they're pushing back aggressively enough. So we'll see in the next term of the court whether or not they let him just run wild.
Well, yeah, I think again too, that's why it's important to be mindful because the case that also like, and I'm with you on all those cases you mentioned, but the one that stands out to me as well is the birthright citizenship claim case that, they want to, exclude people who are born here as citizens. Um, and I think that that one is definitely something to be mindful of too, in that, it could be the precedent to unravel a lot of citizenships
Yeah,
if
thus far they've struck it down. So I have to look and see where it's at now. But most
yeah, it's
recently,
an appeal.
it's
It's
been
back in
struck
appeal now.
down.
Yeah, it's
Okay,
back in appeal. So we'll see. But I think the main thing too is that, being mindful of um, how the Congress and the judicial branch have to be the balances of power in our government, and they're there for a reason. And that's why people need to understand that our government is not really about the president. The president is just a third of what actually is supposed to be our government functioning correctly. But our government currently is not functioning correctly.
absolutely not. It is it is not functioning correctly.
And is that not, or is it a coup, or like I don't know. Like I'm learning this cool word, and I'm just like, does it
It
really
is
have to
it
be physical takeover for it to
right. It is
be a
I
coup?
can it is a coup in the sense that so much of what they're doing, it's going to be very hard to unwind.
Yeah,
Uh,
because then even unwinding is gonna feel like retribution. You know what I mean? It's gonna be feel
unwinding is retribution, but the other real consequence of this administration is anything that you want to fix, you're gonna have to someone is gonna have to present an incredibly compelling case to spend the amount of money needed to fix any of the things that were broken, and that's going to be a hard sell. So we'll
yeah.
see.
See,
We'll see
that's
who
where
emerges that can really rally Americans and explain to them you really need clean water, so we really need to spend $5 trillion to have the EPA look and protect your water. We
well,
really
yeah,
need
you
to do
you would
that.
hope common sense comes back into play, and that's what I'm saying. Like that's why I'm not on that train to rush to the doomsday end of the world notion because I'm like, okay, I'm one of the people that wanted to break a lot of stuff in the system, right? But I'm of the mindset of we got newer, better materials, so let's make the new stuff better. Let's use the new material we got to make the new
Yeah,
world better. Like even from a mental standpoint, let's
yeah,
make our brains better than we've ever used them before.
absolutely, absolutely.
So that's me, and that's just the party nature I am because I'm just like, yo, ain't nobody even Like you talking war over here, you talking bills over here, you talking like we ain't talking about no fun whatsoever.
Ah,
we
just
ask we asking AI to go to the party with us.
well, we it's not over yet.
Oh no, not at
So
all. No, no,
as
we're in good shape. We're in good shape. Did you
it's
see
not
about
over
the
yet.
Consumer Protection Agency today, like striking down
No.
some of the things in the bill?
Oh, no, I haven't seen that one yet. Okay, I'll take a look.
Yeah,
Uh, you know, they've broken so many things that will preclude anyone from getting protection. They've stripped away the protection of the citizenry.
right. So you
That's the
definitely need to
fundamental.
check that out.
Yeah, they've stripped away protection from the citizenry, and if the citizens are protected, they're too vulnerable to fight.
No, no doubt, no doubt. So with that said, people, this is your host Marquis Smalls and John Michael Reefer, Constitutional Crisis Podcast, and we are going to take it out. All right.
All
Y'all
right,
have a good night. Peace, and keep reading this Constitution, y'all,
keep reading the Constitution
and be ready to vote.
and be ready to vote.
No doubt.